It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hello, this is the Harvard Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative take about the world around me. So, questions, show ideas, comments, concerns, reach out to me. I will have those things provided for you in this episode. All right, so some of the audio platforms that I'm on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. Thank you, sweetheart. And Pandora, just to name a few. All right, so this episode is all about Flannery O Connor. And I am going to give my thoughts about her literary concepts of, well, society. Pretty much what she did was a social commentary. She was really, really a big social commentary of her time and the essence of Southern Gothic style. And I'm going to talk about some of her works, and then I'm going to elaborate on that with some facts and go from there. Here we go. Okay. So, Flannery O Connor. Wow. So, I found out about her in my college years. And so, to me, I really think that she was able to get that concept of best way to put it from my point of view is of moral struggles, particularly that was going on in the concepts of Gothic novels. You know, when you have the aspects of love and understanding, you have the aspects of societal, status and so forth. She really put a mirror and shine a light on the concepts of these aspects and from a Southern point of view here. And so what I mean by that is this, for instance, particularly with the Victorian Gothic era, European Gothic era, for the most part, it's centered around the concepts of things that were very prevalent into their society. So, at that time, specifically with the Victorian era, it was all about the aspects of from a female point of view of marriage and then the status and the importance and the impact that has to do with the sort of family you marry into, and then how that would shape and how that would make the rest of the woman's life. And then also reeling that back into other concepts that's, Emily Dickinson, when she would argue the point of, there's more to life than just being a suitable person for marriage, a suitable woman for marriage, or in the waiting. There's a balance in between everything. And so really, when you get in the heart of the matter, specifically with Victorian era and European Gothic literature, it's all about the aspects of, the monarchy, or the aspects of the elite, and then how that trickles down into all the other classes, and then how they relate or disassociate with one another. And so when we transitioned to Flannery O'Connor was really, specifically focusing in on these sort of concepts that are thought about when we get into the South. You're supposed to be demure. You're supposed to be, with that demure, you're supposed to be genteel. You're supposed to be respectful and genteel. You're supposed to be well put together as far as your image. You're supposed to be prim and proper and everything else. And you're not a crass person. And pretty much the overall perspective is you're supposed to be polite and sophisticated and charming at the same time. So Flannery O'Connor really shook that up a lot, because she begs the question of where do these societal norms in the South come from, and why is it superimposed on all these people's lives, and specifically from a woman's point of view here. And when you get the concept of old spinsters, and that was prevalent in European culture, like how do they fit into that when they're not very suitable for marriage, or they wait and wait and wait? What are they supposed to do about that? And I think it's quite unique with what Flannery O'Connor was doing. So some people beg the question that with Flannery O'Connor, she had the concept of feminism in her foreground. But I would argue that, I don't know, I think she was really, I think that strips away to what she was trying to do with her literary concepts, or her literary impact on society. She was really trying to just state things for what they are, and then relate them to an uncomfortable truth. And I think that's what fails with feminism. If feminism is a utilitarian, a false reality of upliftment, of uplifting people, when it's actually about destruction. And Flannery O'Connor didn't shy from the truth when it comes to things like that. All right, so I'm going to go into an AI-generated response about the concepts of her work, and then extend out into some analysis about her work. Here we go. Okay, Flannery O'Connor, the AI-generated response says, Flannery O'Connor's literary works is predominantly features several key concepts, including irony, goodness, and the struggle for moral understanding. O'Connor's use of irony extensively in her stories. She used it extensively in her stories to highlight the contrast between appearance and reality, often revealing deeper truths about human nature and morality. For example, in A Good Man is Hard to Find, and I'll go into depth about that after this. The grandmother's attempts to impress the misfit with her understanding of Christianity are ultimately ironic, and her words come across as cursing rather than prayer. Goodness, and another central theme of O'Connor's work, often depict through the character's struggle with their desires and moral choices. She explores how these desires can lead individuals to alter their good moral concepts, emphasizing the importance of social responsibility and religious comment. O'Connor's stories also delve into the concept of estrangement, where characters experience feelings of isolation and confusion, reflecting the chaotic nature of the world. Her narratives frequently feature grotesque elements of violence, which serve to underscore the moral and ethical dilemmas faced by characters. Additionally, O'Connor's work often examined the concepts of dualism, particularly the coexistence of good and evil in human nature. Her stories frequently reflect on the idea of man's disobedience and the consequences of his actions, illustrating the complexities of moral decision-making. O'Connor's Catholic faith heavily influences her literary themes, with many of her works exploring questions of morality, ethics, and salvation. Her unique perspective on these elements has made her one of America's most significant fictional writers. So, irony. The irony that was used in her literary work is used to highlight contrasts between the appearance of reality, revealing deeper truths about human nature and morality. So the type of levels of goodness that was used in her literary work, it was explored through characters' struggle with their desires and moral choices, emphasizing social responsibility and religious comments. So what the aspects of estrangement in her work, it was depicted through characters' feelings of isolation and confusion, reflecting the chaotic nature of the world. Dualism was examined through the coexistence of good and evil in human nature, reflecting on man's disobedience, again, of making decisions. So again, this all centers around the Catholic faith that she had. So the influences of themes of morality and ethics and salvation, and making her very significant, and why people consider her a very impactful literary figure of her time and throughout in the staple of American history. All right, so I'm gonna give my thoughts, extend my thoughts, and then get on to some aspects of her work. Here we go. Okay, so my thoughts. So, case in point, when Flannery O Connor, and then when it was brought up, a good man is hard to find. And these sort of, the whole thought process and the whole concept of that particular piece of work was all about forcing moral convictions, moral beliefs onto an outsider in order to bring them into your reality of what you think is morally just. And because of that, that shook up the whole disposition between the concept of godly or goodly deeds or being a good Samaritan. It shook that up because, again, when this elderly woman, I'm recalling everything from what I read, in the past about this. She brought him in. She took in a stranger. She never tried to understand everything, try and get a grasp of why he was in the state that he was in, why he was a drifter, trying to understand his point of view about things and find a medium balance between everything in order for him to understand where she's coming from a moral point of view. And I think that's very, 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 very in-depth in the aspects of humanity in itself. So it's unfortunate, and it speaks a lot of truth, especially that, for its time. And I want to say this too, that, as of today, they try to say that, women are so, underrepresented and everything else. But Flannery O'Connor and so many other women like herself always contradict that perspective because, again, the mainstream narrative, which is being changed, for the better, is a slow but gradual process. But it changes the narrative of that because, a woman like Flannery O'Connor and women like her, they don't confine into what the mainstream or, feminist concept or whatever, about what a woman should be. And so they say that's against. But Flannery O'Connor was very honest with the concept of this is a part of the harsh reality of people not understanding their own goodwill is not always perceived as goodwill. It can actually be harmful, and to the point where it was the resolution for it was quite violent. And that seemed to be a lot of the undertones with her work, that the only real solution to get people to awaken to what is their surroundings or to what they need to pay attention to is violence. And so that says a lot with the concept of the moralities of social goodwill, that you gotta, take a second thought, step back, step out of yourself, and once you truly step out of yourself and then, anchor yourself down and try and level that all out, then you start to understand and move forward in the aspects of humanity and helpful good deeds and so forth. And I just think it was quite jarring, the way things happen a lot in her literary work. But again, at the same time, it was very eloquent, and it was a necessary means to an end to prove the point that the act of the horror of it, of violence, really, really reshapes what people need to do better, and what's missing and what's lost and what's broken in society. And that's just truly something else. All right, so I'm going to end with some more facts. Here we go. All right, so I'm just going to simply here, give a rundown and give some of her background, because I think it's apropos to the aspects of her work. So Flannery O'Connor, she was an American novelist and short story writer whose works usually set in rural American South and often treating of alienation, concern, the relationship between the individual and God. O'Connor grew up in a prominent Roman Catholic family in her native Georgia. She lived in Savannah until her adolescence, but the worsening of her family's, her father's lupus forced the family to relocate in 38 to be exact, to a home in rural Middleditchville, where her mother was raised. After graduating from Georgia State College for Women, now Georgia College and State University, in 1945. Turn the volume up a little bit. She studied creative writing at the University of Iowa and the Writers' Workshop. And I think that's a good way, sort of, from my point of view, like an apprenticeship, in order to get yourself, your worth, and see if that's truly a path you want to take as far as your career Yeah, I think that's one of those lost forms of understanding the concept of work, and the person's aptitude should be prevalent in this time, because just pushing people towards college, okay, but you need to also understand the concept of, again, not everybody thinks it's the same, not everybody has the same skills. Some people are more technical, like the aspects of trades and so forth, and it's just nice that back then they got that right with the balance between collegiate work and the balance between knowing your place with career goals and aspects and everything. And it's quite interesting how she went to a writer's workshop to really perfect her craft. So her first published work, a short story, appeared in the magazine Accent in 1946. Her first novel, Wise Blood, in 1952. It was filmed. The film version of it our adaptation was in 1979. This concept, Wise Blood, explores O'Connor's own words and the religious consciousness without a religious. Wise Blood consists of series near independent chapters, many which originated previously published short stories that tell the tale of Hayes Motes. So, religious consciousness without religion. So, talking about understanding religion, but talking about it in a secular sense from an everyday point of view, from people who are not necessarily deem themselves as religion, but they understand and appreciate spirituality. That's what I take from it. So it tells the tale of Hazel Moetz, a preacher's grandson who returns from the military service to his hometown after losing his faith, and then relocates to another town. This one populated by a grotesque cast of perpetual loners. So, false prophets and displaced persons on the make. So his lonely, tragic comic search for redemption, which involves his founding of the church without Christ, becomes increasingly violent and phantasmagorical. So Wise Blood combines the keen ear for common speech, the causistic religious imagination, and the flair of the absurd that were to characterize O'Connor's subsequent work. With the publication of further short stories, first collected in A Good Man Is Hard to Find and Other Stories of 55, she came to be regarded as a master of the form. The collection of this, the story became possibly her best known work. Okay, so like I was saying, A Good Man Is Hard to Find in 55. So the collection of stories, and as soon after this, it became a collection of stories and became possibly her best known work. And O'Connor created an unexpected agent of salvation and the character of an escaped convict called the Misfit, who kills a quarterling family on vacation in the Deep South. Her other works became of fiction. The other works that are of fiction are a novel, The Violent Buried It Away, in 60. And the short story collection, Everything That Rises Must Converge, 65. A collection of occasional prose pieces, Mystery and Manners, appeared in 69. The complete series, published postnominally in 1971, contains several stories that had not previously appeared in book form. It won the National Book Award in 72. So, disabled for more than a decade by the lupus she inherited from her father, which eventually proved fatal, O'Connor lived modestly, writing and raising people on her mother's farm at Milledgeville. So, The Habit of Being is 79, a book of her letters, The Preservation of Grace and Other Books Reviews in 83, a collection of her book reviews and corresponding with local newspapers, a prayer journal of 2013, a book of private religious missives provided valuable insights into the life and mind of the writer of Flannery O Connor, who divide conventional categories. O'Connor's it's kind of phrased weird here how it's written. So O'Connor is notable for seeming, into the contrary to being a devout Catholic, very religious, but at the same time that contradicts each other with. It's just one of those things where not everything is black and white. There's layers to things. So, whose darkly comic works commonly feature startling acts of violence and unsympathetic, often depraved characters. She explained the prevalence of brutality in the stories by noting that violence is strangely capable of returning my characters to reality and preparing them to accept their moment of grace. It is the divine stripping of human comforts, and along with the attendant of the standards as most apparent, which is quite featured throughout Connor's work. All right, so I'd like to know what y'all think about this or about this episode and the aspects of violence in literature and the aspects, the concepts of, artistically literally, in the artistic form from the, whether it be cinema too, to come out of, versus literary forms. So what is your concept about all of this and how it's depicted and how it relates into our society at large? All right, reach out to me. I'll have those links for you to do so in this episode, as I always do. All right, this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye for now.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.